Пані та панове,
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andriy Shevchenko, and on behalf of the team of Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform, I want to thank all the journalists who tell the world about our fight for freedom. This time we're having another special event. We will be talking about the anniversary of Ukrainian Revolution of Dignity, the anniversary of Maidan. In the conscience of a lot of people in Ukraine, the Ukrainian-Russian war is the continuation of the effort which is known to the world as the Revolution of Dignity, revolution on Maidan. So we will be talking about this and other things with our guests today, and I would like Oleksandr Tkachenko, the Minister of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine, to start the conversation. The anniversary is ahead on the 20th of February. What should be Ukrainian ready for, and what the journalists who tell the world about it should be ready for? I'm convinced that for us it's ultimately important during the war not to forget how it started, what it started with. It was the first fight in the Russian-Ukrainian war, the fight for our values, for the European values, for freedom, for liberty, and honoring of the heroes of the Heavenly Hundred and the narratives that were laid as fundamentals by Maidan, and its victory is the bone in the neck, bone in the throat of Russian authoritarian leaders. And I'm happy that Institute of the National Memory and the Museum of the Heavenly Hundred prepared a number of events to remind us, in order we don't forget about the deeds of the heroes in this confrontation. And before I pass the microphone to other participants of our discussion, I would like everybody to see the video that we prepared for this anniversary. We have better helmets today and better armor today. It's more reliable, way more reliable than the shields we took away from Berkut, and we cannot even compare the arms we used to have. Oh, you could only see what we launched at the enemy to burn the helicopters, tanks, and airplanes. A lot of things changed. But the main thing for us is the main. Heroes don't die. They hold the sky above Ukraine on their shoulders. February 20, the day of the heroes of Heavenly Hundred. And there's yet another video that we can show. Well, so maybe let's get back to the videos a bit later. And I would like Mr. Maksym Yarmisty, who has the Institute of the Ukrainian Institute of National Memory. Why should we remember about Maidan in the light of Russian aggression these days? The key word these days is freedom. Freedom is what guides us, is what cannot be taken away from us, and the revolution of dignity is one of the fundamental moments of Ukrainian history, and the ideas of national freedom, national liberty. These days we will honor the heroes of the Heavenly Hundred, who in fact were the first people who laid their lives. And the slogan that they are the first heroes of Russian-Ukrainian war only corroborates it. As an Institute of National Memory, we would like to draw everyone's attention to the fact that last year we developed the ceremony together with our colleagues that was repeated in many cities and villages of the country, and understanding that it's martial law, we will recommend the regions to use the works of the Institute of National Memory while honoring this important date. And it's very important for us to honor this date in a noble manner. This is why we actualize the materials, the information materials that we will first of all disseminate among the regions with the request to spread them among the local by the local governments while honoring these dates. So the ceremony of honoring the Heavenly Hundred passes with dignity. I want to draw journalists' attention that we have this booklet in this studio. It describes all the events which will be happening in Kiev and other cities of Ukraine to honor the heroes of the Heavenly Hundred. And I would like Mr. Ihor Poshivaylo to tell what are the most important events in this covered by this booklet. Glory to Ukraine. This slogan was actualized more than 9 years ago in Maidan, and the day of honoring the memory of the Heavenly Hundred is the day of sorrow, but it's not about the death, it's about sacrifice. It's about the readiness of Ukrainian society to protect, to defend the national integrity and national liberty. And the slogan of social and information campaign in honoring the Heavenly Hundred is that they are the first heroes of Russian-Ukrainian war. As it was said today, the war started not on the 24th of February last year, but it started way earlier. And we can say that it started back on February 20, when Ukrainians with dignity protected their values in Maidan, when the Russian regime, using the hands of Yanukovych, was trying to subjugate Ukraine. And as a result of those dramatic events, the government, the then Ukrainian government, used the same measures, the same steps, the application of arms about non-armed protesters against civil population. They used all the prohibited weapons. So the Heavenly Hundred is the first cohort to this heavenly siege that is now existing in Ukraine. So we created a program with a number of partners. Our traditional partners are the relatives of those who perished in Maidan, the government agencies, Ukrainian Institute of National Memories, non-government organizations, local administrations, municipalities. So we offered the program which would not only allow us to formally celebrate this day, but to rethink those events and to let Ukrainian society understand that the deed of the Heavenly Hundred mobilized the Ukrainian society and helped to prepare Ukrainian army back in 2014 with the help and support of volunteers, helped us to become informationally, morally more powerful in different levels. And we offered the round table, Heavenly Hundred, the first heroes of Russian-Ukrainian war. It will be happening online, and the attempt to rethink those important things and to analyze the revolution of dignity in the context of Russian-Ukrainian war. We will also present our book by the three books, 3 volumes. The biographies of the Heavenly Hundred. It will be presented in the city of Drohobych. On the 17th of February, there will be an exhibition in Kiev-Pechersk Lavra, in the big bell tower of Lavra. It's a very important fact, the opportunity to establish the exhibition in Kiev-Pechersk Lavra. It's the exhibition that was prepared by Oleksandr Tymoshenko, who was wounded during the Revolution of Dignity. So in the focus of exhibition, we're talking about the 18th of February. And in the context of the exhibition, there will be an act called Where Are You Going, Ukrainian Rus? It's the Pechersk district administration. I'm having a proposal, so let's get familiarized with this booklet maybe later. And another important question is what is important from Maidan. This is why we will be having this round table on this subject, and this is why we will be having an exhibition in the alley of the Heavenly Hundred. There will be more facts added in the close cooperation with the Office of the Prosecutor General, who provide us with the important statistics, and it will be happening on the 17th of February. It will be a joint press conference about the dynamics of investigation of Maidan cases. There will be another important exhibition in the Gallery of Protest Art that we will open on the 20th of February. The Plains of Resilience, together with the Institute of Research of History of Armed Forces. So it will cover both 2014 and 2022, and obviously there will be a traditional commemorative installation, a life finished by a bullet. We will commemorate 48 heroes of the Heavenly Hundred in the Alley of the Heavenly Hundred. The program is way more broad, and we invite everybody to follow the changes and maybe alterations. It will be the day which would consolidate Ukrainian society. A lot of things are going on in Ukraine and abroad. And 20th of February, from the very morning until the end of the day, there will be church services and solemn passage organized by the families of those perished in Maidan revolution. And we call all Ukrainians to get involved to the maximum extent to honoring of the memory of the Heavenly Hundred and all the heroes who keep perishing in this Russian-Ukrainian war. And to summarize it, we will have social and information campaign by our museum for another year. There was a hashtag Be Free, and we invite everybody to share their memories, their reflections. A lot of time has passed. We gather all this information, we analyze it, and sooner or later it is represented in our cultural and educational programs and exhibitions. Pavlo Sydorenko, a serviceman of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, who was a very active participant of the Maidan revolution, wounded in Grushevsky Street, and I cannot help but saying that, but sharing when Pavlo was wounded in Maidan, he was an aide to the People's Deputy of Ukraine, and I was that deputy, and this is a person we all take pride in. Pavlo, what's your emotions after the victory of Maidan after all these years? Good afternoon, glory to Ukraine. Like Ihor mentioned, this slogan popular back then in Maidan, which is currently the official slogan of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. And when you discover those feelings in your heart, and when your commander says glory to Ukraine, when your information, everybody responds glory to the heroes, something that we started fighting for about 10 years ago, it was not in vain. It's still living. 9 years ago, specifically these days, we won a fight. We won the first fight of the Russian-Ukrainian war. We didn't know back then that the war is on. We were euphoric. We won. The idea won. The people won. However, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, it was only the beginning. One of the best sons of Ukraine, Vyacheslav Chernovil, used to say that Ukraine, its liberty and independence were given at very low price. And only within this last year we realize how prophetic, how difficult, how heavy was the burden. Our first brothers in arms who perished, the first Heavenly Hundred who perished in Maidan, were the first heroes of Russian-Ukrainian war, and us who received different wounds during Maidan revolution, we became the first veterans of Russian-Ukrainian war. But the war is on, the fight is on, and in fact, all of my friends, the majority of all those injured who were injured in Maidan, they're now in the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine, or they're volunteers who cannot be servicemen due to the health conditions. We remember all our brothers in arms who perished. Our joint idea, our common idea is the European church, the liberty, democracy, and we will win. We have questions on the floor. Good afternoon, Svetlana Tkachuk, Ukrinform. I'm having a question to Mr. Minister. Could you please tell us if there are any results of the cooperation of Ministry of Veterans, which were announced back in December last year? There's joint projects, for example. There is a wide range of projects we cooperate in. It's the military cemetery, memorial, and cooperation in promotion of the veteran image. The Ministry of Veterans has a huge problem dedicated to reconstruction of the system of cooperation between society and the veterans. This joint work is underway, and it was discussed just this morning, and there is a presentation prepared by Ministry of Veterans. By the way, I would like to mention one thing. On the 22nd of February, Yanukovych fled. On the 23rd, it was the session of Verkhovna Rada, which stripped him of his authorities, and 24th of February is the day when Russia started its aggression. So maybe it's the answer to why it started specifically on that day. So I will ask Maksym, if there are no more questions on the floor. Can you explain this connection between the Revolution of Dignity and the Russian-Ukrainian war, which was going on now? Imagine we have to explain it to a foreign journalist or a person who did not follow the events in Maidan. Well, the connection is way more profound, and Mr. Minister just touched this topic. In fact, those events are related because they're both the fight for freedom. And the key idea of Maidan that was back then, it's the freedom, is the European values, is the desire to decide on your own, using the critical thinking, to choose your way, to have this way chosen by the Ukrainian people. Russian-Ukrainian war is in fact the war against the people who took up the arms, who value the freedom, with a country that choose the European values for themselves. And their question is about the people, is the irony of destiny. Now there are people in the ranks of the armed forces, of the defense forces, who used to be on different sides of the barricades in Maidan, and they were thrown by the then government to oppress the revolution, to oppress the protests, but they protect the homeland with dignity now. So Maidan was the consolidating factor. So what can you tell about this such kind of evolution in the society? Well, on one hand, yes, there are certain remarks as to those people who were on the other side of the barricades, who were killing and injuring the protesters, but the war led us not only to rethink, but to have the nation reborn. No matter how banal it sounds, but what our northern neighbors did, headed by Putin, none of the Ukrainian politicians ever did so much to consolidate the nation, because what was laid as fundamental for consolidation back in 2013, 2014, it happened now in 2022. We've met this war as the monolith. And even people who used to be on other sides of the barricades, when they get into the same unit with the protesters now, they remember it as the history now, but they think more about the present day, about how they can provide the shoulder to their brother in arms. So maybe there are any more thoughts about this evolution, about what is Maidan today for Ukraine, for unification of the forces. So getting back to the previous question, when the battalion of Kulchitsky was formed in Petrivci, there was the same situation with the former Berkut servicemen or the representatives of other law enforcement agencies, and we had existential fights back then, when the guys set the goal to not to sort things out, but to decide on the further destiny of Ukraine. So Maidan was about the personal choice. It was about the choice for freedom. So we see that opposite. Back then they were the opposite side, but they're now in the same ranks, and we see those law enforcement officers who used to shoot at the protesters, and some of those servicemen are now in Russian Federation, and there are documents found that they used to be former servicemen of Berkut, and there are parallels between war and Maidan. Ukrainians back then not only declared, but they laid fundamentals to the very important processes, so we don't return to the Soviet past. Very powerful processes of decommunization were initiated, and that was the existential threat to Putin's regime. So on one hand is the protection of their Ukrainian homeland, their cultural identity, and their future. For Putin's regime, it's the very important threat, and this is why the war started back then. If we don't have more questions on the floor, my last question will be to the minister, Oleksandr Tkachenko. In the study books for the future, how should be Maidan and Revolution of Dignity described? If you could word it concisely, how would you like those events to be remembered? Is the countdown to the reload of the modern Ukraine from the point of view of choice of European values, liberty, and the principles we're fighting against Russia? Oleksandr Tkachenko, Maksym Yarmisty, Ihor Poshivaylo, Ihor Sydorenko. Do we apologize? Do we have questions on the floor? I have an announcement. The head of civil organization, the Resilient Maidan, we all commemorate the heroes of the Heavenly Hundred in our own ways. I want to pay attention to the fact that the members of our civil society who swore allegiance at the tomb of Serhiy Shapoval, and we were sitting in the court proceedings with his mother. I want to, and she didn't make it for the award. Our main task is to punish the killers in all the courts. We do everything possible so they don't avoid the justice. During the Revolution of Dignity, we're all people of age. Everyone went through territorial defense, but I'm in my 70s now. Our front line is here to achieve the result in the courts. We swore allegiance, and I swear to continue this fight for justice. So this is one of the topics that Mr. Poshivaylo mentioned about when he mentioned the program of events, and we're having the last question. Channel 5, Irina Radoshna, good afternoon, glory to Ukraine. I've heard that at the round table, well, maybe I misheard something, but the investigation will be discussed at that round table and criminal proceedings. Can you give us more detail about this? How real it is during the war, and what is the condition, and are we even entitled to postpone such things during the war, because those things should be punished? The Revolution of Dignity, together with the civil activists, with their relatives of the Heavenly Hundred, initiates such discussions on an annual basis, and the Office of Prosecutor General keeps informing the society about the condition with the investigations in Maidan. Well, it's the conditional name, the events of Maidan, and the exhibition will be about that. On the 21st of November last year, there was another press conference when the representatives of the Office of Prosecutor General, who are involved in investigations of Maidan cases, they will report about the dynamics, about the official statistics. We've seen a lot of things, but just like Mr. Oleksandr mentioned this problem, their families of the wounded and those killed, they ask precisely how many people are punished, how efficient is Ukrainian justice now. So this will be the discussion about the dynamics of investigation, the prospects of bringing those liable to justice. And on the 17th of February, we will have this annual conference in the Crisis Media Center where we will discuss those problems. So we have to wrap up at this. Pavlo, Sydorenko, Maksym, Yarmisty, Ihor, Poshivaylo, Oleksandr, Tkachenko, about the anniversary of Maidan, Ukrainian Revolution of Dignity. Thank you for this conversation. In 10 minutes, we will have another special event. We will talk about the food security, why the war is threatening to the world, and stand with Ukraine.